Hi, my name is Clarabelle, and I am the creator of Clarity with Clarabelle. I'm a health and wellness counselor. I'm a makeup artist, a beauty coach, and a skin therapist. And I also live with Crohn's disease. Um, so I decided to create this channel and this outlet for me because not only my passion for health and wellness and all of the encompassing layers within what health and wellness really means, but also because I'm in this new season of life, kind of this sandwich generation, as I've heard it called, where I have a 12-year-old son, but I also have an aging mother who equally needs my attention and time. Not me alone, but I do have other siblings, but still, we all have our individual lives and responsibilities. And so, still, there's a big subset of my time that's allotted to taking care of her. And that, that poses quite a bit of challenge when you have so much going on in your personal life, you know, like living. so, um, so I decided to really just journal, if you will, this journey that I'm on. And I think I'm going to start with this interesting conversation of where I am right now in midlife and with my Crohn's disease. So really, I started this channel many, many years ago, and I don't think I posted but 2 or 3 videos. But I created this channel for my Crohn's to talk about my Crohn's journey. Um, and my dog is eating at my carpet. But now I think it's so much more important to talk about my journey, where I've been, and where I am now, and of course, where I hope to be in the future. So, yeah, as a health and wellness counselor and a beauty coach, I really think that there's this beautiful sin, what is it called? Beautiful evolvement of who I am as not only a person, as a mother, as a business owner, as an employee, as a friend, as a sister, as everything. It's so different, my life right now. And so, this place that I'm in right now, this midlife, um, my thought process was, oh gosh, midlife is not at all the same as when my mother was going through it. I do remember when my mom was going through midlife. For the most part, I was already in college, so I wasn't at home. I went away to college, but I do remember quite a bit of the things that she was going through. She lost her mother. She wasn't quite in midlife yet. She was still in her late 30s. Um, but she did lose her mother. I think I was 16. And then 10 days later, she lost her father. Now, granted, my grandparents came from this day and age where they had 18 kids. So my mom was the youngest of 18 kids. So she was younger, losing her parents, in the scope of things, right? Her parents, her grandmother, my grandmother, her mother was 78 when she passed. And then 10 days later, my grandfather died of a broken heart. That's a beautiful, true love story, right? They've been together for so long. He couldn't see himself living without her. And this was in the Dominican Republic. He had different times, of course, different worlds back then. Um, so I remember her going through these changes in her 40s and 50s. And she certainly, even though I have great genetics, I am in my late 40s, saying goodbye to 40s as I enter my 50s. So I believe I have really good genes. And so even though my mom looked really young in her 40s and 50s while she was going through midlife, but looking back at pictures and remembering her personality was very different than me in my 40s going into 50s. I mean, if you see me, I'm wearing a mini skirt and tank top, painting my nails, wearing makeup. My mom was not that person. My mom was much more conservative in her haircut, in her dressing. She hardly ever wore makeup, but nonetheless, she still had great skin and looked young. And she did take care of her hair for the most part, dyeing it. But other than that, she was going through her challenges at midlife, the whole menopause. But she also was having these ebbs and flows. So she had met someone and married. So she was in this peak. And then she was going through menopause and she would take a dip. And then they would take trips and she would go back up. And then she did have a car accident and they went down. So it was these ebbs and flows while she was going through midlife. And so just looking back at it and being real about it, that's really what I'm going through. The real difference, if you look at the big picture, my mother had telenovelas and magazines. Really, anytime she watched TV, her telenovelas on Univision or Galavisión, or she would have magazines. Really, commercials and TV and magazines was the only exposure that she had to compare herself with, or, as we get older in this stage of our life. And it happens throughout all of our stages, right? Young, old, it doesn't matter. But in this era, she had that kind of exposure to compare herself and, from time to time, not feel good enough. While today, we walk around with little computers 24/7. So we have now social media that's constantly feeding us on a minute by minute basis on comparing ourselves. So in the big scope of things, we have these little computers in our hands that's constantly giving us and feeding us information and showing us what we don't have, what we should have, what we should look like, and how we should be living, and constantly feeding us that negativity. So we have that pressure, as midlife, I'll look at, I'm like, well, I wish I was that skinny, or I wish I had a personal trainer, or I wish I could eat that way. This constant comparison that does not help when we're going through enough challenges. So all that to say, it got me thinking. I was like, oh, it's not the same as, my mother's midlife. But really, in the truth of I'm going through the same things as she went through. The difference is that the good differences, right? So there's a good thing that there's so much more resources available, and that is the type of person I am as well. I love learning and I love advocating for myself. So there's constant information that I gather to better myself. And there's more of that opportunity for me to do that. Not to say that she didn't have it in that era, but it was so much more facilitated right now in order to do that. And again, that is part of my personality. And then the downside to the difference is that we have so much more information. So the flip side, the good side and the flip side is a lot of information, a lot of resources available, social media, what have you. So anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole now, but this midlife that I'm going through, it's beautiful and crazy at the same time. And I can't even imagine what my mom felt like, because she didn't have anybody to really talk to. I mean, she did have her siblings back then, but I don't know if they really talked about things. Like, I think they always were at the surface level. Um, but I'm very open about my journey. I'm very open about what I'm going through. I'm not shy to talk about it. I've never been shy to talk about my Crohn's disease, that is for sure. And I'm certainly not shy about talking about what I'm going through now, all of the different challenges, but the beauty of it too. There's just like this amazing, just beautiful journey that I'm going through. And it's kind of, some days are better than others, some moments are better than others, but nonetheless, I wouldn't have it any other way. In the midst of this, I'm learning so much more about me, and I'm able to really hone in on the things that I've been trying to change about me, and just notice that I'm learning. I'm finally learning after so many mistakes and so many different times in my life where I just kept stubbing my toe and kept doing it over. And why is this happening to me? Well, because I keep doing it over again. And finally, now I'm not. Finally, I'm on the other side, and I'm like, that took a while. um, but having a son that's 12 and seeing how fast he's grown up, and then have a mom that's 77, and her health deteriorating. At times it gets better, but other times it doesn't. Her memory certainly is not getting any better. It definitely has its challenges. And then my career, it's blooming. It's just, I'm in a great space in my life right now. A couple of years ago, I decided to leave corporate America because I thought I was burnt out. Well, the problem wasn't the company, the problem was me. And I learned that. And I'm glad I took the time away to really learn that. And while I walked away from corporate America, I decided to start my own business. And I had a brick and mortar business, and I learned some lessons there as well. My parents were entrepreneurs, and I was like, I have entrepreneurship in my blood. I've got to do it. Well, turns out I'm really not cut out for entrepreneurship. And when I started realizing all of this about me and about my personality and what I was doing wrong, I was able to kind of come back to and appreciate all the things that I've learned and all the places I've been. And I was able to let go of the brick and mortar idea. And that's not me. And really focus that piece of clarity with Clarabelle more virtually, and just being able to help out in a different way and be of service. And then, unbeknownst to me, I found my way back to corporate America, or they found me, or however you want to look at it. And I found myself with a great organization local to me. And it's a beautiful courtship, right? Because that's what it is. When you work with an organization, it is a relationship. And you put in and you get. There's a sweet balance, but I've learned that. So, I'm in this place with my career that I absolutely love. I'm in place in this life feeling good about myself. Yeah, there are days that I wish I didn't have this muffin top. Thank you, perimenopause or menopause. But I feel good in my skin. I feel good about my skin. I feel good about my my physique and where I am, my health and wellness. Some days are better than others because life happens. Some days I'm able to do 5 or 6 things that I love for myself. Other days I do too, but there's always at least one thing good that I do that I love, and it's either walking, moving my body, running, doing some form of exercise. Highly, highly suggest that you do at least one thing for you, not for anyone else. And I'm just in this space, in this place where I'm loving so much of what I've learned and what I stumbled through many years of life, of being young and dumb, I wouldn't want to go back to make those same stupid decisions. But had I not made them, I wouldn't be here today. So it is this interesting journey that I'm in right now, in this beautiful ebb and flow of life, specifically now in midlife, and navigating through the many paths that I'm going. I'm looking through my notes to see if I missed anything else. I think that, the one thing that I must say that I've learned the most right now, and that, life is about continuously learning on an everyday basis, is really just taking the time for those little moments. That is one thing that has definitely been I don't want to say an aha moment, but it clicked. And it's, you don't know when your time is up. I've always known that. And I have said that before. But it hits different in midlife. It hits different when you have an aging parent. And I've lost my dad quite a few years ago. My son is 12. And I think he was 2 years old or a year old when I lost my dad. Now, my dad was in and out of our lives. He wasn't a constant figure in our lives, but nonetheless, he was my father, and I lost him in a horrific way. But so it hits different knowing that there is an end date to our life. So it's not necessarily that I'm scared of it. It's more so that I'm aware. And I do try my best. Something that I love Dr. Wayne Dyer. And in fact, my stepdad was the one who introduced me to Dr. Wayne Dyer in my 20s. And I love what he says. He said towards later in his books or podcasts that I would listen to, every morning he would wake up and he puts both his feet on the floor. And the first thing he would say is, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I do my best every morning to put my feet on the floor when I first wake up and say thank you, thank you, thank you for another day. And then taking small moments within my day to look at my son, look into his eyes, to touch him, to hug him, to love him. It may not happen the entire day because, some days he'll get, some moments will be, pick up your clothes. Didn't I tell you this 100 times? Why is that on the floor? Wouldn't I, all that stuff. You know how it is. But for the most part, at least once or twice or 3 times. However, I try to feel him, touch him, love him, look into his eyes and tell him I love him. I still go into his room every night and I give him a kiss on the cheek. For the most part, there are some nights that he doesn't. He closes the door. He doesn't want mom to come in. But I try my best every night to say, let mom come in and give you a hug and a kiss. And the same with my partner, and the same with my family, friends. When I have them in front of me or if I'm talking to them, to do my best to be in that present moment. And it's hard. Trust me. I've got 1,000,001 things to do. You should see what this room looks like. It looks great behind me, but in front of there, it's a hot mess. I painted this room and I have to take everything out. And the paint looks great. It was hot pink before. But now there's a mess. And then the same thing. There's a mess in the house. There's dishes in the sink. I have to go pick up my son from his dad's. My dog is sleeping at my feet because it is past his bedtime, So life happens. There's 1,000,000 things to do. But that is one thing that I have learned in this midlife right now. It's at the end of the day, what matters most is the lives that we touch. And it's taking the time to be present. So life brings many challenges. Midlife certainly will bring a lot of challenges, but at the end of the day, it brings beautiful moments. So I know this has been a rambling conversation, but it's what I wanted to open on. And there'll be more conversations about this and more organized conversations, hopefully. But I had to pull the plug and I had to start here because this is where I'm at right now. And Alexa, turn the lights off. Alexa, can you turn the lights on?
Okay.
Life. I guess it's trying to tell me that I'm done. Oh my gosh. Real life. But I do want to talk more about this for sure, especially how Crohn's has changed in my midlife. Wait until those conversations starts happening. Yeah, it's a beautiful journey and it's a beautiful ride. It's what you make most of it. It's what you make of it. Make the most of it. All right. Until then, I hope you continue to redefine beautiful you. Thank you for joining me in Clarity Chats with Clarabelle. Until next time.